From here, Craig figured he could probably slide my dad's body down the stairs and out the side door to safety. My dad always refused to let him practice this part, saying gently, "That's enough now," and insisting on getting back to his feet before Craig could try to lug him down the stairs. But between the small man and the grown man, the point had been made. None of this would be easy or comfortable if it came to it, and there were of course no guarantees that any of us would survive. But if the very worst happened, we at least had a plan. Slowly, I was becoming more outgoing and social, more willing to open myself up to the masses or the wider world. My natural resistance to chaos had been worn down somewhat through all the hours I'd spent trailing my dad through his recent visit, visits, plus all the other weekend outing we made dropping in on our dozens of aunts aunts and uncles and cousins sitting in thick clouds of barbecue smoke in someone's backyard or running around with neighborhood kids in a neighborhood that wasn't ours. My mom was one of 7 children in her family. My dad was the oldest of 5. My mom's relatives tended together at Southside's house around the corner drawn by my grandfather's cooking, the ongoing games of Bed West, and the exuberant blasting of jazz. Southside acted as a magnet for all of us. He was forever mistrustful of the world beyond his own yard and worried about everyone's safety and well-being. As a result, he poured his energy into creating an environment where we were always well fed and entertained, likely with the hope we we'd never want to move away from it. He even got me a dog, a cinnamon colored sphered, but we called Rex. Mom didn't allow Rex to live at our house, but I'd visit him all the time at Southside Nights Lane, lying on the floor with my face buried in his soft fur, listening to his tail thwap thwap appreciatively any time Southside walked past. Southside spoiled the dog the same way he spoiled me, with food and love and tolerance, all of it a silent, earnest plea never to leave him. My dad's family, meanwhile, sprawled across Chicago's broader South Side and included a lot of great aunts, great aunts and third cousins. We we orbited between all of them. I quietly figured out where we were going by the number of trees I'd see on the street outside. The poorer neighborhoods often had no trees at all, but to my dad, Everyone was Ken. He lit up when he saw his uncle Callio, and he adored his aunt Cordelia, who lived with her 8 children in a neglected apartment building in a neighborhood where Craig and I understood that the rules of survival were very different. On Sunday afternoons, all four of us normally drove to Parkway Gardens to eat dinner with my dad's parents, whom we called Dandy and Grandma, and his 3 youngest siblings, Andrew, Carleton, and Francisca. They'd been born more than a decade after my dad, and thus seemed more like sister and brothers to us than aunt and uncles. My dad, I thought, seemed more like a dad and less like a brother, with the three of them offering them advice and slipping them cash when they needed it. Francisca was smart and beautiful, and sometimes let me brush her long hair. Andrew and Carlton were in their early 20s and dazzlingly hip. They wore bell-bottoms and turtlenecks. They owned leather jackets, had girlfriends, and talked about things like Malcolm X and Soul Power. Craig and I passed hours in their bedroom at the back of the apartment, just trying to sponge up their cool. My grandfather, also named Professor Robinson, was decidedly less fun to be around, a cigar-puffing patri- patriarch who'd sit in his wrinklier with a newspaper open on his lap and the, the evening news is blaring on. The television nearby. His personality was nothing like my dad's. For Dandy, everything was annoying. He was outraged by the day's headlines, by the state of the world as shown on TV, my by the young black men, boo-boos, he called them, whom he believed were hanging uselessly around the neighborhood, giving black people everywhere a bad name. He shouted at the television. He shouted at my grandmother, a sweet, soft-spoken woman and devout Christian named Levon. My parents had named me Michelle Levon Robinson in honor of her. By day, my grandfather expertly managed 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 a thriving Bible bookstore on the far south side, but in her off hours with Dandy, she was reduced to a meekness I found confusing even as a young girl. She cooked his meals and absorbed his constant flow of complaints and said nothing in her own defense. Even at a young age, there was something about my grandmother's silence and passive passivity in her relationship with Dandy that got under my skin.